Hey, so I was just briefly chatting with somebody on Reddit who is compiling a bunch of stories of people who have manifested things and how they did it and all that stuff, just for everybody to enjoy. So if that happens, I will mention it here and link to it so that you can go get it and enjoy it. But it really got me thinking about all of the different stuff that has happened over the years. This whole concept of manifesting is something that I started being introduced to at a very young age. I'm 42, and I think I read The Power of Your Subconscious Mind when I was 12 or 13. And my stepfather is a big studier and very interested in things more scientific relating to this. But as soon as he was around in my life, there was a lot of reading material, and I am a big reader. So, I've read a lot of stuff. This was in my awareness from being a child, essentially. And so, starting at a very early age, I started seeing these things happen in my reality in front of me. As far back as in high school, I remember, I don't know if this is the same for everybody, but back around that time and that age when you don't really know who you are yet, and you're still kind of like trying things on. I, for one, was the type of person who would just sort of like decide that something was me. Like, I decided I was very lucky at some point. I didn't have like proof of that. I didn't really have anything to point to, but I just started, saying I'm really lucky, like when in conversation with people. And then I started saying, I just always have the money I need whenever I need it. And it started happening. Like the actual outer effect started following this just kind of BS, I'm going to try on this personality trait thing that I did when I was pretty young, like 16, 17. And so I noticed that happening. And then when I was in my early 20s, I read The Science of Getting Rich, and basically it just all went from there. That sort of explained to me what I already suspected from these young experiences and all the stuff that I had been reading. And there have been so many things over the years, big and small, some so big that I really can't look at it and point to any one thing that caused it to happen. Going from broke to a multimillionaire, I've detailed that on this channel. I will try to find those videos and link them. There's a couple of them, the Bridge of Incidents that kind of spanned over a decade or so, that finally made me successful. And like stuff like my fiance showing up, that to me has less of a visible bridge of incidents where something strange and mystical happened to cause it to come about. But there are a handful of things that when I look at how they went down, it seems quite obvious to me that there is a divine intelligence, and that you don't always have to really, be actively involved in something coming about in your life. I mean, I think a lot of action is involved in most things that you do in your life, but there have been a couple things where a chance encounter or a chance event clearly was a pivotal part of the Bridge of Incidents, and I wanted to recount the three that I can think of offhand right here. One of them I made a video about a few days ago. It was the manifestation of the house. I'm not going to go reiterate all that. I'll link to that just in case you missed that. But the pivotal part of the Bridge of Incidents that blows my mind with that story is that I was not supposed to be where I was when the ball got rolling on this thing happening. I was supposed to be 2 states away. And the thing that prevented me from going 2 states away was an act of nature. That to this moment, this was a few months ago, I still, every time I think about that, it creeps me out a little bit, because I tend to fall back into, and I don't really think this is wrong, if I had to advise you, I would still advise you to do this, but I tend to think that if you can take conventional action to get things, you should do that. And I don't think there's much of a reason to try to rely on some mystical event to bring you to something that you can just go get. Like, you can use mental techniques like certainty and assuming that the outcome will come about smoothly and all that stuff, while still just going for it the way you would normally go for it. And if there's a better way, it'll be presented to you, obviously, I think. If you're trying to become a doctor and you have an idea about how that's going to happen and you're sure that it's going to happen and be great, well, maybe there will be a little detour there that you didn't think of that divine intelligence will give you, that you look back and go, oh my God, if that didn't happen, then I never would have met this doctor that became my mentor, that kind of thing. But that shouldn't stop you from, knowing that these mystical things happen shouldn't stop you from taking conventional action that you know how to do. That's my official stance. However, I do have these little incidents where I just really kind of, I'm like, what the hell? How did a windstorm happen, keep me from going somewhere, and put me in the exact place at the exact right time I needed to be in order to see this for sale sign going up? And then when I decided not to act on that, because I saw this sign going up and I didn't do anything about it, because in my mind I was just kind of like, this isn't happening right now. Then that night is the night that my neighbor chose to be a complete obnoxious asshole, to the point that I took an action I didn't want to take, which was be kind of confrontational. And then the next day thinking about it, just thinking, you know what, this living situation is not in alignment with what I want, and I hate it, and God damn it, I wish I could move. And then just sort of laying there fuming about it, thinking, oh yeah, that house, I'm just curious, I wonder how much that is. Fully thinking it was going to be like way, way more than I wanted to pay. The rest is history. So a windstorm and another person behaving badly at the exact right time in the right place when I was not supposed to be there. That's the shit that I cannot explain. And I have two other instances of that I think of whenever I start thinking about how bizarre things are. And I've also talked about those on this channel, and I'll try to link to the full video on that, because I'm just gonna mention the weird bridge that part of the bridge that makes me like, whoa. For my business, there was a product line I wanted to carry. The company, when I applied for a wholesale account, just like rejected me and kind of strung me along. It was really kind of an insulting experience, and they just wouldn't let me carry their products. Like, basically, they kind of like shamed me and made me feel like my store was crappy. And that wasn't just my perception. Although, to be fair, like, I was a little bit of I might have had some insecurities in that area, which made this worse. But they did pretty much flat out tell me, we don't feel like your company is a good one to represent our brand. And I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. I'm ready to spend like literally hundreds of thousands of dollars at your store. Or on your products, who can just say no thanks to that in the day and age of the internet, being a retail hub. I couldn't believe it. And it was totally like unfair and just pissed me off. And I couldn't stop thinking about it for like 6 months. I just wanted it really badly, and it kept annoying me, and I kept kind of like feeling that like hot feeling of, my stuff wasn't good enough, just this bad feeling. Out of nowhere, as soon as I kind of forgot about it, my end conclusion with that was, you know what, screw them, I don't need them, because I just wanted it. I didn't need it in order to continue to completely kick ass and make a ton of money and all that. I just said, you know what, that's their loss. I'm going to laugh my way to the bank while they don't make a couple $100,000 off of me this year. Fuck them. That was where I left it. And it turns out that I had a chance meeting with somebody for a different company way before this incident went down. Like 2 or 3 months before this company rejected me. I had met with a sales rep for another company that I didn't really like. I never, ever, ever meet with anyone in person unless I absolutely have to. What I love about my business is that I never interact with anybody. I don't have to talk to customers. I don't have to meet anyone in person. I don't go to trade shows. And for some reason, I allowed this guy to come into my warehouse, which I never do with anyone, had this totally unsatisfying meeting where he showed me all of his stuff and I didn't like any of it. It was really weird. And I'd actually had bought some other raw material stuff from his company a little later, and I think I accidentally got him in trouble with that, which I won't go into the details of that, but I sent an email to somebody that had some of the stuff he had said copied in the bottom without realizing it, and I think he actually got in trouble with the company he was working for. Anyway, out of nowhere, 6 months after this company that I did want rejected me, this guy emails me and says, hey, I'm a new rep for the company I wanted. I'm the new rep. I see you don't have an account. I was wondering if you were interested in setting one up. So like whoever was preventing me from getting it got fired or left. This dude I had a chance encounter with remembered me, and while he was trying to set up his new client base, found that I didn't have an account. Like if we hadn't had that meeting, he wouldn't have had any idea who I was. And I would have still thought that the original dickhead that rejected me was there. So we just never would have come together if he didn't know me. And I ended up getting the account I wanted. He ended up getting a huge client because I ended up spending, it's one of my top suppliers. So, to the point that even in this day and age of COVID bullshit, expensive stuff, they've been giving me free shipping on everything I buy, which is just like thousands and thousands of dollars a year in free shipping. So anyway, when I think about what had to be going on behind the scenes for that to happen, and the timing of everything, and the fact that I even had this meeting with this guy, it's just, it's like the Windstorm, honestly. Like, how did that even happen? I don't know. But I ended up getting a huge thing I wanted, that was specifically something, it couldn't be replaced with something else. It was a specific thing I wanted. So that still blows my mind to this day. The part where he wouldn't have known who I was otherwise blows my mind. And then there's only one other thing that I can really point to where, something seemingly bad even. This was it'd be very easy to have looked at this and I kind of did to some degree, feel like I got really screwed. But 6 years ago, when we were shopping for a new place to house our business, it's my ex and I, we ended up signing a lease on this property that ended up having been mislisted for how big it was. And just being inside of it empty, it wasn't completely obvious to me that it was much smaller than listed. So it was like my fault. It was my real estate agent's fault. It was their fault for listing it wrong. Kind of the whole thing was everybody's fault. And we didn't figure this out until after we signed the lease and got the keys. Like an hour later, when I was measuring to figure out where everything was going to go, I realized this. And the landlords would not let me out of the lease. They said, you looked at the place, you liked it. It doesn't matter that we listed it wrong. Tough shit. Pay to get out of the lease, or stay here and make it work. Just complete ass. I was just like, I am not going to deal with landlords like this for, I think it was like a 3 year, I don't remember how long. It was like maybe a 3-year lease or a 4. It was a long term. So we ended up paying to get out of it, and I was fucking pissed. I was just, you can imagine, it was like $3,000 to get out of the lease. And I thought for sure, because we were like right at the deadline of renewing the lease on on the place that we had before that we were trying to move from, we were going to have to, I was just like, oh my God, we're going to have to re-sign the lease here. We don't have any place to go. There was nowhere to rent. And we were really in a bind. And I remember my ex saying, you know what? No, like, listen, can manifest this. This was like, he actually used, I don't remember if it was that exact word, but he's like, no, you know what, we need to focus, let's just pay the money, it's not that big of a deal, let's just focus on getting the right place to show up. And so, you know, I was, what other choice do we have? So we did that. And once again, kind of being in the right place at the right time, there was another warehouse office unit, like right across the street from where we were. And we had looked at it when we first got our office, and it was kind of a weird layout for what we were doing at that time. And it was like way expensive for what it was. And we had just rejected it when we were first looking years before this. And so it had sat vacant the entire time that we had been doing business in the place we were at. And so we didn't even consider it. Like, it was sitting there, it had a for lease sign on it for 2 years. We didn't even consider it. And so like literally like 2 days before we had to figure out, like, are we going to sign the lease again to renew the lease in the small place that is way too small? My real estate agent called and said, hey, this listing just dropped in price by like 40% for this place that we had rejected. And I was like, I don't think that was a good place, but let's go look at it. Turns out that it just looked completely different to me the second time viewing it 2 years later, because the business had grown so much and it just had changed, and it turns out this place was now perfect. It was like the perfect size, a good layout for the things that had sort of branched off into being divisions of the business. And man, it just blew my mind. We were like the first ones that saw it. We signed the lease for it right away. And this is the best part. It was, I think, over $1,000 less per month than the place that had ripped us off. And it was like 300 square feet bigger than the other place was supposed to have been. So it overall, like, with the discrepancy in how big the other place was, this place ended up being like 800 square feet bigger than the one that we had to pay to get out of. And so that was 6 years ago. So that's $12,000 a year times 6 years is $72,000. So we got ripped off for $3,000 and then saved $72,000. And that is why it is just really dumb. And I do this all the time. So this is not like a judgment call or I'm superior. It is just super dumb to really think that you know what anything means that's happening in your 3D reality. Oh, and one of the draws of the place that ripped us off was that it was right next door to a Subway. I love Subway. And the Subway ended up closing like 3 months later. So I'm not really sure how that plays into it, but it just made me feel even better about the whole thing. Anyway, those are my manifestation stories with an obvious, weird, right time, right place, right people element that I could see clearly. I mean, how many other things have happened where you didn't see what your chance encounter with somebody ended up producing? But yeah, shit's real, yo. And that is all I wanted to say about that. So have a great day.